Hello everyone, welcome to The Good, The Bad, the TNA Impact Wrestling for Impact Wrestling on January 12th, 2012. And obviously most people know this is the first Impact since the Genesis pay-per-view. And for anyone who did watch my Genesis pay-per-view review, you would probably get the impression that I did not care for it all that much. And you're probably right. I really didn't. I didn't like I liked the in-ring action that they had, but I didn't really like the story resolution and how there pretty much wasn't any for the pay-per-view, outside of maybe a few little areas. But on to Impact Wrestling for this week. And they did do a little bit of change of pace. They usually Impact has a lot more matches. They usually have about 5 to 6 matches. Some are short, maybe some medium-length matches, and then the talking segments. And they only have 4 matches this week, and this wasn't because of the aspect that they were just talking a lot, though a bit in the first hour it was a bit talky. It was because in the last hour they gave time to the matches. And honestly, I made for 2 really good matches in the last hour, and it really didn't feel like you were watching just an episode where they were building storylines. You saw that at the beginning. They built the storyline for that show at the beginning with Sting and Bobby Roode at the beginning. Bobby Roode comes out, calls out Jeff Hardy, says this is over with. Sting comes out and says he's going to have a world title match that night against Jeff Hardy. So you're going to you get maybe a potential resolution at the end of the night between them two. And they went on. There was 2 pretty much squash matches, or matches you really didn't need too much of in the first hour. You had, though, there were some good aspects to it. You had Matt Morgan and Crimson going in, just having a tag team match. Again, honestly, I forget who they're against now, but they had pretty much a quick tag team match, and they won, of course, in pretty much squash fashion. This led to having Samoa Joe and Magnus come back out and essentially lay out both of them. And honestly, I'm kind of glad this happened. I think there were a lot of people that were worried, and I kind of was too, that this whole Magnus Samoa Joe tag team would go away after the wild card tournament and after their loss. But obviously, it's not. They're going to have another. Eventually they're going to feud, right now they're going to feud and eventually hopefully have another match. And honestly, I would be pretty happy with that, because honestly their match at the pay-per-view was pretty good. And I liked what I saw there. And then after that you had Eric Young and ODB doing their thing. Obviously they're going to be the new comedy spot. At least that's what it looks like. They're just going to be that odd couple. And of course Eric Young is he's pretty much there for comedy purposes now. He's not there for serious business, and it just looks like they're going with the odd couple angle on this one. It's not too bad. They used it this week for a match against Winter, and the match itself came off all right. It was kind of it kind of took away every time Eric Young tried thinking it was a tag team match, but it was what it was for that week. And honestly, they didn't really do much in the terms of, Mickie James and Gail Kim, or building on that feud, or building the feud that she's having with Madison Rayne into that portion as well. You saw something later in the show where Sting made a cage match for the next week between Mickie James and Madison Rayne. And that was pretty much all you saw in that aspect. After that, it was you had James Storm come out. He called out Kurt Angle. This eventually led into the match between Kurt Angle and James Storm. They're doing it one more time. This time it's for #1 contendership to the world title. And like I said, this is pretty much at the start of the second hour. And after this, it was pretty much all in-ring action. Outside of maybe a few little backstage segments. But once again, they gave great time to the match. It was a great match once again. You got to see, you pretty much got to see a pay-per-view quality match on the free TV this week, and I absolutely loved it. It was great. It was actual resolution. It gave some resolution to the Kurt Angle James Storm feud, which is what it needed. Honestly, honestly, I feel like it ended in a good way, and hopefully they'll have him going towards James Storm going towards Bobby Roode here in the near future. After that, they had the main event, and that was, of course, Bobby Roode and Jeff Hardy. Honestly, the match itself was not too bad. It was pretty much like the pay-per-views to a certain extent. A little bit less of Bobby Roode trying to get himself DQ'd. Then again, they threw the stipulation if he got himself intentionally disqualified, he would lose the title. And so it led for what I think was a better match than what you saw on the pay-per-view. And once again, they gave it a good 20 minutes. So it was and it was extremely enjoyable to watch. Of course, it ended with it seeming like Jeff Hardy was going to win, and then Bully Ray comes out, pulls out the ref, knocks him out, and they pretty much end the show on that. And I'm going to go off and say, obviously they're going to throw it as it was going to be a no contest versus a disqualification for Bobby Roode, so he can keep the title. And it does kind of make me mad that there's no real resolution between the Bobby Roode-Jeff Hardy feud. It looks like it's going to be going on a little bit longer. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You figured with James Storm getting #1 contendership on the show, they would end this feud here so they can go into this feud there. But it will more than likely turn into some kind of triple threat match for the next pay-per-view. And honestly, that could be a good thing as well. But who knows? Things about the show that I just didn't like. I figured, you have the champions, and pretty much all the champions were showcased, or you had a few of the champions showcased. You had Robbie E out there. That was who the tag team match was against. It was against Robbie E and Robbie T. So now that I remember it, so you had the TV champion out there. You had the world champion out there. You had the tag team champions out there. You didn't see anything with the X Division champ or the Knockouts champ. And honestly, with everything, at least with the X Division, which used to be their cornerstone, you figure you would see Austin Aries in some way, shape, or form, or they'd be building something after the pay-per-view match, but they did nothing this week. And that honestly, that kind of irked me. I wish they would have done something with the X Division, but they didn't. And it did kind of irk me. Same thing with the Knockouts Division. You figured you should do something around your champion. They did do something around the Knockouts, but they did nothing with their champion, which once again is not a good thing. When you're not showcasing the champions, people are going to forget about them, and they're just not going to care. And honestly, those were the bad points of the show. And outside of that, pretty good show. I would say it was a pretty good show. Outside those two main aspects that they didn't showcase, two of their champions the night after, or pretty much the show after a pay-per-view. So those were the two things that irked me. Outside of that, essentially great in-ring action for those last two matches. The other two matches, it was okay. It wasn't anything great, and that's pretty much all I have for this week on Impact Wrestling. I thank you guys for watching.